There's a lot of great players that get waived or cut from rosters, so I'm not worried at all. But we did evaluate.
Breaking news just exploded, and the WNBA will never be the same again. Cathy Engelbert, the commissioner who was supposed to protect the league's integrity, has just been arrested, and the details are jaw-dropping. Brionna Jones stepped forward with receipts so heavy they could sink the whole league, dropping claims that Cathy masterminded one of the dirtiest cover-ups in modern sports history, according to Briana. This wasn't just a little locker room drama or a sneaky roster swap. No, Cathy allegedly went all in, hiding Brittney Griner's real biological identity while pressuring whistleblowers to keep their mouths shut. She allegedly forced other WNBA stars to line up next to a player who, under official guidelines, shouldn't have even been eligible. And now, those quiet whispers have turned into sworn testimony, and Cathy Engelbert is caught in the middle of a legal firestorm that's shaking the entire league. But here's the part making fans' jaws hit the floor. It wasn't just about protecting Griner, it was about destroying Brionna Jones' shot at being the league's top name. If Griner hadn't been protected and pampered at every turn, Brionna Jones would be the face of the WNBA right now, alongside Caitlin Clark, of course. Instead of being dragged through controversy she never signed up for. Cathy allegedly threw Brionna under the bus just to protect the league's golden image, and that betrayal is what's fueling this outrage. Let's rewind, because this disaster didn't start with handcuffs and headlines. It began the second the league made a choice: protect Griner at all costs, no matter who got burned.
BG, this question is actually for you. What do you think about Bree's season so far? We feel like she's been
spectacular. I've been on the other side of guarding Bree. She's an amazing player. Getting to play with her, seeing her basketball IQ, in practice on the court, seeing things develop. She's always talking, time out, telling us different things, the guards different things that she's seeing, and they're always right things. And then, what she does on the court.
When Griner was arrested in Russia back in 2022, panic spread like wildfire through WNBA offices. Griner wasn't just another player. She was their poster child. A towering 6'9" phenom, a dunking sensation, an Olympic gold medalist, and the media's favorite spotlight magnet. The league tied its entire image to her, and that desperate gamble is exactly what's unraveling now. Without Brittney, the WNBA had no face, no storyline, no star to plaster on billboards. The league was in full identity crisis. And while Cathy Engelbert scrambled in back rooms trying to keep the brand alive, the spotlight cracked wide open for someone new to claim it. That's when Brionna Jones stepped up. She wasn't just balling, she was rewriting her own destiny. After grabbing Most Improved Player in 2021, she followed it up in 2022 with 6th Woman of the Year, even though her numbers screamed, "Starter!" Here's the proof. The Connecticut Sun rolled out a full CoverGirl-style campaign to push Briana as the league's next big thing. Glossy posters, highlight reels, all of it. They knew she had it, and fans were starting to rally around her. Efficiency, grit, and cold-blooded clutch shots. She was a silent killer in the paint, and everyone saw the writing on the wall. With Griner gone, Briana was the one quietly carving out a legacy the league desperately needed. But then came 2023, and fate dealt her a brutal twist. Briana went down with a season-ending Achilles injury. Her dream run cut short in seconds. The clip is heartbreaking. Tears streaming as teammates helped her off the floor with just a minute left on the clock. That wasn't just the end of her season, it felt like the end of her climb to superstardom. And as Briana rehabbed in silence, the league wasted no time flipping the script. Brittney Griner returned, and suddenly, it was like Briana never existed. Headlines, cameras, sponsorships, all rushed back to Griner, erasing the grind Jones had put in. To make it sting even more, the WNBA shipped Briana off to Atlanta, forcing her to share the court with the very player she had already proven she could outshine. That wasn't just business. It felt like a setup. Now they're both stuck on the Atlanta dream, and the media won't stop spinning this dominant front-court duo fairy tale like it's some Cinderella comeback.
There's a little of that Bird Magic moment, if you recall, from 1979 when those two rookies came in from a big college rivalry, one white, one black, And so we have that moment with these two. But the one thing I know about sports, you need rivalry. That's what makes people watch. They want to watch games of consequence between rivals. They don't want everybody being...
But let's keep it real. Briana didn't choose to team up with Griner. She got pushed into being the sidekick of a player the league has bent over backwards to protect. The whole Atlanta system is being built around Brittney, from play calling on the floor to how the press packages every single story. And Briana, she's expected to just smile, nod, and fade into the background while her career gets quietly chopped down to supporting cast status. That's not opportunity. That's sacrifice dressed up as teamwork. Sure, Griner makes a point to hype Briana whenever cameras are rolling, dropping compliments in post-game interviews like it's second nature. But let's be honest, she has to do that. The optics demand it. Take this one clip. After a battle against the New York Liberty, Brittney stood in front of reporters, showering Briana with praise for her hustle. On the surface, it sounds heartwarming, like sisterhood in action. But people aren't buying it anymore. Fans and insiders have been side-eyeing this arrangement from day one. That kind of scripted praise feels less like respect and more like PR damage control. Because here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. Brittney's return was never clean. The further you dig into it, the more it reeks of something way bigger than basketball. This isn't just about plays, stats, or who can score in the paint. This is about a league protecting its chosen star while burying a scandal so deep it nearly erased Briana's rise. And now, the cracks in that cover-up are showing for everyone to see. The league's been hearing the whispers for years. The deep voice, the towering frame, even the way Russian prison officials reportedly classified Brittney differently. Fans have clocked every detail. And now those quiet suspicions aren't just chatter anymore, because medical leaks are confirming what insiders have been whispering behind closed doors for over a decade. Brittney Griner was not born biologically female. And the person who worked overtime to bury that truth was none other than Commissioner Cathy Engelbert. Cathy didn't just turn a blind eye. She allegedly engineered the entire cover-up. She silenced league insiders, blocked medical records from surfacing, and built a fortress around Griner's public image while sacrificing the credibility of every other woman grinding in that league. One player, in particular, paid the highest price: Brionna Jones.
Been a lot of discussion from the draft and onward about the vast disparity in pay between the WNBA and the NBA. So how do you think about changing the economics of the business so that there's more parity there? Like, how patient do the players have to be?
Yeah, I think, we try to do business of basketball sessions with the players every year to talk about how sports works from a revenue perspective and expense perspective. And this is my old life coming into handy. I'm a CPA licensed in 3 states. And, it's hard for players and the media and everybody to understand what we're building here, and that we had to raise that capital to deploy it against things like marketing and expanding the league and working with our broadcast partners and globalization and bringing more fans into the funnel and a digital transformation. So it's hard for them to understand on the face of it why we are where we are, but we're also only going into our 28th season. The men's sports leagues, most of three of the big 4 are over 100 years old, in the NBA, obviously, in their 77th year. So they have a big head start on us, but we're trying to build something big here. We're trying to drive an economic model that's sustainable and that we're viewed as a legitimate sports media and entertainment growth property. I've been adding growth property in there. And ultimately, we're building a revenue model to sustain this league for many years. When I joined the league, I've been saying, we were like just surviving. And now we went from survive to...
If Cathy hadn't pulled those strings, if the league hadn't shoved Briana aside to protect Griner's storyline, then Jones would already be the face of women's basketball today. No debate about it. Now Briana is refusing to stay silent, and for the first time, Cathy Engelbert is being forced to face the fire. The commissioner who once ruled the league with absolute control just got slapped with an arrest, and here's the wildest part. Hardly anyone in the WNBA batted an eye. No heartfelt tributes, no emotional farewell posts, not even a basic thank you from the players. The silence from the locker room says it all. Engelbert wasn't respected, she was feared, and the second the mask slipped, everyone left her out to dry. This isn't just a scandal, it's a full-blown reckoning. The league's carefully polished image is collapsing, and the very people who once protected Cathy's legacy are now pretending she never existed. The league just brushed it off like nothing even happened. That cold silence wasn't random. It was years in the making because Cathy Engelbert had already burned bridges with the very women she was supposed to protect. And here's the kicker. Her failures didn't start with the Brittney Griner cover-up. They stretched back long before the scandal even broke. Let's rewind to the 2024 season when Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese were getting dragged nonstop across the internet. Caitlin was hit with wave after wave of racist dog whistles, while Angel got labeled everything from too aggressive to too ghetto, just for being confident on the court. And people don't forget this part. Angel went on record saying she was receiving actual threats from furious Clark fans who took the rivalry way too far. This wasn't lighthearted trash talk. It was ugly, dangerous energy swirling around two of the biggest names in women's basketball. At that exact moment, the league had one chance to step in, set the tone, and show support for its stars. Everyone was waiting to see what Cathy would say because this was way bigger than basketball beef. This was real harassment, real racial tension, and real danger staring her players in the face. But instead of taking a stand, Cathy went on live TV and brushed it all off like it was just a feel-good throwback rivalry. During her CNBC interview, she literally compared the Clark versus Reese Firestorm to Magic versus Bird, like the racial attacks and harassment didn't even exist. That comment didn't just miss the mark. It exposed how disconnected she was from the reality her players were living through. Fans were outraged, players were stunned, and insiders whispered that this was the moment the locker rooms truly lost faith in Engelbert. Watch this part carefully. The clip doesn't lie. You can literally see Cathy sitting there, smiling on live TV and comparing the Clark versus Reese Firestorm to Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, like it was some feel-good, nostalgic sports highlight reel. But this wasn't about basketball history. This was about two black women being harassed with threats and racial slurs while the world watched. The disconnect was shocking and people felt it instantly. In that single moment, Cathy didn't just lose a few fans. She lost the trust of the entire locker room. The very athletes who looked to her for leadership saw their commissioner brush off real danger and real hate like it was nothing but a rivalry storyline. That broke something deeper than any PR spin could repair. And here's the part that cut the deepest. The WNBA isn't just any league. It was built by black women, carried on the shoulders of black women, and has survived year after year because of the power and resilience of black women. So when players saw their own commissioner dismissing the one issue that hits them harder than anyone else, it didn't feel like a misstep. It felt like betrayal. Cathy didn't just fumble the moment. She actively downplayed it, lying through polished interviews while players sat in silence, realizing they couldn't trust the person at the top anymore. Cathy Engelbert wasn't just covering scandals. She was twisting numbers too. On national platforms, she bragged that WNBA players could make up to $700,000 a year. At first glance, that sounds groundbreaking, like women's sports had finally cracked the code to equal pay. She made it seem like the league was booming with opportunity, but the truth was far from that polished sales pitch. Here's the clip. Cathy going on about growth while carefully sidestepping the real question: what the average player takes home. She spotlighted inflated top earner salaries while ignoring the fact that most women in the league were nowhere near those figures. It wasn't transparency, it was spin dressed up as progress. Players didn't stay quiet either. They called her bluff immediately. Gabby Williams from the Seattle Storm jumped on social media and shut the narrative down, exposing how misleading those numbers really were. Yes, a couple of superstars like Brittney Griner might touch that figure, but only after adding in overseas contracts, shoe deals, and endorsement checks. That's not WNBA money. That's outside hustles making up the gap. And the truth stings. The average player is scraping by with about $70,000 base salary from the league itself. That's not superstar money. That's survival money, especially when compared to what NBA players rake in. And to make matters worse, last season was chaos on top of low pay. Refs were out of control, blowing calls so bad fans were left speechless, while players got shoved, slammed, and even picked up injuries that the officials just ignored. One fan's viral breakdown nailed it perfectly. The season didn't just look messy, it looked rigged. And when you stack that on top of Cathy's salary spin, it's no wonder players are boiling with frustration. Fans started saying the WNBA was beginning to feel less like basketball and more like a contact sport gone wild, almost like the NFL. And this wasn't just sloppy officiating anymore, it was flat out dangerous. Even the Washington Post chimed in, warning that the level of chaos had become a threat to the entire sport. That's how bad it got. But Cathy? She didn't step in, didn't check the refs, didn't tighten the rules. She just sat back like it wasn't her problem at all. And here's where things start looking real shady. Because while the league descended into mayhem, Brittney Griner was back on the floor. And let's be real, she's one of the most physical players the WNBA has ever seen. That's not even up for debate. She's taller, stronger, and moves completely different than most of her opponents. Yet whenever she played rough, the refs suddenly went silent, swallowing their whistles like they'd been told to look the other way. Take this infamous clip from a game between the Mercury and the Wings. Brittney went off, elbowing, shoving, and starting what looked more like a wrestling match than a basketball game. Players had to step in just to calm things down, while the refs acted like nothing happened. That's not competitive play. That's unchecked chaos, and fans were stunned that it slid without consequence. One viewer even commented online, shaking their head at the madness. What's going on here? This player has been exposed as being abusive. Why are they still allowed to play? That question echoed across social media, sparking a wave of side-eye at the league's leadership, and the silence from Cathy's office. It only made the whole thing look like a cover-up in plain sight. That might sound harsh, but that's exactly how deep the frustration runs. Players and fans alike believe Cathy Engelbert was shielding Brittney at all costs, even if it meant letting other athletes take hits, suffer injuries, and feel unsafe in their own league. And once again, Cathy stayed silent. She didn't step in to fix the broken officiating, she didn't correct the lies being spread, and she didn't even offer her players the bare minimum of protection on their own court. That silence spoke louder than any press release ever could. So when people now say nobody's gonna miss Cathy Engelbert, this is why. But here's the angle not enough people are talking about. While all this chaos swirled around Griner, Brionna Jones wasn't just sidelined, she was being erased in real time. Promised interviews got canceled with no explanation, media spots she had already been booked for mysteriously disappeared, and the brand deals she worked hard for, they vanished overnight. It wasn't just a snub, it felt like an orchestrated blackout to push her out of the spotlight completely. But Briana didn't just bow out quietly, she decided to speak. And now, Cathy's in handcuffs facing allegations of covering up what could be one of the biggest gender scandals in professional sports history. That alone would be explosive, but here's the real bombshell. Briana didn't stop at Cathy's name. She's pointing fingers higher up the chain, dragging more names into the storm. And if what she's claiming checks out, the next person to fall won't just be a commissioner, it'll be someone way bigger, someone untouchable, someone the league has been protecting for years. And that's where things get wild, because if those dominoes start falling, the WNBA won't just be facing a scandal, it'll be fighting for survival. So what do you think? Is this the beginning of the end for the league as we know it? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, share this with someone who needs to hear the truth, and smash that subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter of this madness. Trust me, the next drop is gonna be even crazier, and you'll want front row seats. See you on the next one. Fire.